This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Bumabati po tayo kay Rosa Punsalan, whom we bumped into at Mega Mall and said that she awaits our program every Saturday evening. And I mentioned that because, of course, we've heard from other people that our discussions are too high level. Well, as I explained, we want to stay high level because we do not want to just remain on the level of the Napoles list. Maraming nangyayari po sa mundo na napakahalaga po sa bayan natin na pag-usapan, pag-isipan, pag-aralan at hindi po binibigyan ng pansin. Well, today, we already know and it's been established that the world is turning towards Asia, towards the East. That's why yung ating pamagat po, the Philippines in the Asian century. Itong darating na 86 more years will be years where Asia will count the most. And yet the Philippines is still identified as an appendage of the Western, particularly U.S. Political economic culture. Kami natutuwa itong araw na to na pinagtipon ang mga Pilipino na ordinarily would not be noticed. Na ang Pilipinas po ay napakayaman sa paghahalo ng iba't ibang kultura at political economic opportunities in these Asian centuries. By the way, ang aking suot po ngayon ay kulay ng Russia. Bandila ng Russia dahil po ako ay sumasaludo kay Putin at sa Russia dahil sila ang nagdadala ng buong center of gravity ngayon dito sa Asia. Hindi China po. China nasa Asia na eh. But Russia has just decided that they are going east. And now, alam naman po ninyo, the past week, $400 billion 30-year contract on gas, oil with China. In 6 months' time, there will be a contract between Russia and India. The world is inexorably turning towards the east. So tayo nag-imbita ng mga Filipinos of roots in at least three. Old civilizations. But we'll also start from I cannot say that the oldest civilization, but the oldest member of the family, the most senior, Professor Benito Lim, retired from UP as an academic and now teaching in the Ateneo. Si Ginoong Hiro Vaswani, obviously Vaswani is of Indian, although malawak yung salitang Indian, Punjabi, etc. And a Filipino, the chair of the Education Committee of the KME, Kilusang Makabansang Ekonomiya. In other words, makabansa po itong, hindi po 5-6 yan. Makabansa yan. And then, of course, you've heard Richard Javad Heydarian, an Iranian-Filipino, Ilocana ang nanay, Iranian ang tatay. At lahat po na ito ay mga bihasa sa pag-aaral sa mga kultura, sibilisasyon, politika at ekonomiya ng mundo. Kaya nais po natin iangat ang diskusyon sa US-Philippines-China controversy to a global discussion kung ano na ang dapat na landas ng Pilipinas dito sa bumubukas na bagong siglo, the new century that we are facing. And I would like each of our panelists to give their assessment of what they see in the coming decades. Let's start with Professor Lim.
Since the end of the Cold War, the attention of the world has shifted concerns from ideological and security issues to economic issues. Most leaders of the different nations are more concerned in economic development. In fact, because of economic development, it has become a political issue. The rise of the economies in Asia has shifted the concerns of the other developed countries from Europe and America to Asia. In fact, America's pivot to Asia was intended precisely to rebalance the dominance of the economic development of Asian countries.
Naalala ko nga in Hillary Clinton's paper that introduced the term pivot, she was very specific. The Asian market is the market of this century. Hindi sila pwedeng maiwan. So we'll discuss what it means for the Philippines, which is not producing anything anymore for the market except OFWs. But let's go to our KME Education Committee and of course finance expert Hiro Vaswani. Hiro, you must also add what is going on in India. After 75 years of the Congress Party, now a new nationalist leadership is coming in. Why is this so? But anyway, before that, itong nangyayari sa mundo at ang Pilipinas, anong tingin nyo?
Well, first let me dwell on the recent election victory of the nationalist Hindu party in India. This is the first time that you have a man from a lower caste basically elected into his parliamentary seat who will lead India. And this is a break from India's historical past, where the Congress party led by the Nehru dynasty, and Nehru was at the top of the caste system. He was a Brahmin, and basically his kid and his grandkids basically have led India post-war. India is undergoing a serious economic crisis that led to this amazing, basically, election victory and mandate of this man, basically, who led his party in a presidential type election campaign, because India has no president. It's a parliamentary system.
So presidential meaning it's centered on his personality
Exactly.
and his leadership. Dati parliamentary local campaign.
But
so.
they basically ran on his personality and his success in his home state. And it was amazing where all levels of Indian society basically gave him a spectacular mandate.
Isang importanteng puntos dito because the Congress Party ran the government on a neoliberal program in the past at
Not
least
exactly,
5 years.
not exactly.
Diba?
India is a mixture. You cannot just simply say, oh, they
Pero may
ran.
kaibahan ba si Modi pagpasok niya?
Well, Modi, again, India is such a complicated economy / political system because it is a diverse country.
Okay.
You have powerful states with the federal government, and you have a vast majority of its people who are poor.
Actually, maybe more than the Chinese influence in the Philippines culturally, ang Siopa, Umami, Diko, Dichi, and so on, the Indian culture, Sanskrit, and so on, Bathala, all the moral terms come from India, no, Guru, and so on. No? So napakahalaga niyan. But the influence of China in the Philippines is overwhelmingly economic today. But Indian influence, except for the election of Shahani, doesn't seem to be that significant.
India, basically...
Will it change today? Will it become
No.
more significant?
No, because India is still an internally driven economy and political structure. It is a vast country with a vast number of people that are still, basically majority of the people are still poor.
Pero masasabi natin, very significant component ang Indian or Pakistani money lending sa development ng countryside ng Pilipinas.
Well, you have to understand, when Pinoys look at Indians, they look at Mumbai.
Oh.
But what you see in the Philippines, basically, predominantly the 5-6ers, basically come from one basic state, Punjabis, the Sikhs, the guys with the turban. They are primarily responsible for your 5-6 in the countryside.
Nais ko lang bigyan ng emphasis yan dahil, of course, hindi maganda pakinggan yung 5-6. But actually, so much of the development of the past decades may not have happened without the financing from the
Well, that
5-6.
is basically the informal economy that is the main driver of employment and the economy, the bulk of the economy of the Philippines.
So
We
mas
are
malaking
struggling.
impact ang mga 5-6 kaysa sa IMF World Bank in the
Yes.
rural areas.
Yes.
Okay. Before we take our break, we must hear now from Iran where well, of course, Filipino, but since he knows much about what is going on in the world, Richard Heydarian, who teaches at the Ateneo today and a columnist in Huffington Post, and we'll mention that later so that people can learn from what you write. Nagugulat ako sa nangyayari sa Middle East and sa relationship ng US and Iran na nag-dialogue na and so on. Tuloy-tuloy na ba ito? And can't the Philippines enjoy Iranian oil? And so on? Richard?
Yeah, as far as culture is concerned, in fact, you have to understand that the spread of Islam from the Middle East from the Arab Middle East to the East Asia actually was through the Persians. In fact, Persians were responsible for making the Arabic alphabet a much more rigorous and a sophisticated one. So the kind of Islam, the kind of cosmopolitan Islam that we see in parts of Asia and East Asia actually was much because of the influence of the Persians, which are not Arabs, which are different. So just to say that the Persians also play a role here. Now, of course, what ties Philippines perhaps to the Middle Eastern countries like Iran is definitely, aside from cultural and historical ties, is the oil issue. And Iran has been historically one of the major producers of oil and major suppliers of oil to the Philippines. Unfortunately, in recent years, due to the unilateral sanctions of the Western countries on Iran, the Philippines has not basically, Philippines has cut off any imports of oil from Iran. I think that was not a very smart move because countries like India, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea continue to buy oil from Iran despite the sanctions
Bakit nga?
through the waivers of exemption.
Bakit yung iba
mechanism.
pwede, bakit tayo hindi? Di
Well,
ba?
that's something that actually also puzzles me. Actually, the one country that replaced Iran, interestingly, is Russia. So Russia took over the market of Iran once the sanctions
That's
were
right.
imposed in Iran. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that our ministries in charge of engaging in trade transactions perhaps are not imaginative enough to find the kind of mechanisms that they need, or perhaps because our reliance, our oil refiners' reliance on Iran was not that large, it was easy for them to switch out. But now something very interesting is happening. In fact, what you see in Iran is a return to pragmatic politics, which was present there in the late 1990s and also in the early 2000s. It was only the election of Ahmadinejad that kind of turned it around. So now Iran wants to come back. Iran has a huge potential to be one of the major emerging markets of the century. As Thomas Friedman of New York says, Iran could be the next China of the Middle East and the world. And the thing is that...
And take over the leadership from Saudi Arabia or the preeminence from Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think...
Saudi Arabia has just communicated for the first time in a long time, di ba? Sumulat sa Iran that...
The problem in the Middle East is that, first of all, you don't have anything like ASEAN, an established architecture of security. The second problem is that all the major regional powers are roughly similar. So you have Turkey, you have Saudi Arabia, you have Iran. And because none of them are too powerful, it is difficult to really talk about a clear leader in the region. But what the United States is looking forward is once hopefully by July they'll finalize a nuclear program that will allow for the United States to be less engaged in the region and leave it actually to Iran and Saudi Arabians to sort out things. Because the problem in the Middle East is the Sunni-Shia divide.
Yeah.
And
Well,
all
ang
those
Iran, napakalayo from the Philippines, and India is a bit more, a bit closer but still distant. But I think what ties China, India, Iran, and other countries of Asia with the Philippines is through the developing multilateral alliance of the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. But I understand Iran is already in the wings to be part of this, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and so on.
Yeah.
So last 30 seconds, anybody who would like to add to that? Is BRICS going to be the channel of the Philippines? But the Philippines is not working with BRICS either. to our senior member? Any,
Well, very likely, the Philippines has to probably reconsider and examine its current foreign policy in order to change its relationship with the BRICS. As of now, the Philippines appears to be embracing the United States of America.
Okay, we'll continue with that after this break.